Hello everyone, welcome to another video. My name is Philip, I'm also known as PS or PS Enough. This is a video about the pick a topic, any topic of this month of May. It's a Patreon tier that I have on my Patreon. You can check out the details below. The topic for this month is about the demo scene again. So the question is the demo scene more or less accessible to newbies of getting into the scene? This is a very complicated question. First, because there have been less newcomers to the demo scene as in the previous years. As we all know, the demo scene is aging. That can be explained by various factors. One of the main ones is how there are so many other outlets. If you want to become a computer artist, let's call it that, or a digital artist. It used to be that all the roads would lead to the demo scene in the late 80s, early 90s, because it was one of the biggest forms of expression you could have as a teenager who was getting into computers. It was very accessible and everyone had knowledge of it, or everyone in the computer culture sort of had knowledge of it. And they shared that information along. Nowadays, with the internet, there are so many sites, so many places where you can do, and so many different kind of arts that you can do, that you don't really have that clear-cut definition of if you want to be a programmer, if you want to be a graphician, or if you want to be a musician. You have a lot more things that you can specialize yourself in. You can be a jack of all trades. You can focus your entire life on just owning your skills at the specific tool that just does animation or just does color coding or color grading, whatever you call it. So a lot of different stuff out there for people to be interested in and find a niche that they want to express themselves, or try to find a job in it, or whatever, anything to be creative. But the point is the demo scene harder to get into? Well, yes and no. You don't have to know all the basics of the machine to do demos anymore. Like back then you needed to do your own engines. Then there started to exist some demo engines available, tools that you could use. Like I remember Demopaya, for example. You could use it to create a demo out of it, and there were always some engines around, but then it became really popular with Unreal and with the Unity. These engines really revolutionized the way that people do games, and by default, the way people do demos as well. And also there was a lot of big shift focus from computer graphics that were basically just access to the buffer on the screen to being using the GPUs to do triangles and do 3D scenes with that, and the way that you render scenes is different. So there was a lot of big learning curve. First people were doing 2D, then they started doing 3D, but all on software. Then they started rasterizing the triangles, and there was a new learning curve. We had some 3D modeling, 3D animation, but it was all based out of triangles. And then came pixel shaders, and that changed the whole perspective, because now you could do stuff entirely just in the shader. Shader Toy is a very interesting tool. If you don't know Shader Toy, you should definitely check it out. You can test your shaders there. You can see what other people have been doing, and it's a nice tool to learn shader technology. I did a small article writing about how to get into the demo scene. It covers some of these specific issues already, so I'll put a link down below here. It's called 14 Days to Teach Yourself Demo Scene. So that pretty much summarizes what this video is about, or actually expands what this video is about. This video is shorter than that article, but yeah, it mentions the usefulness of Shader Toy and learning to program not just graphics in general, but shaders in particular. And you can pretty much do a good entry into the demo scene if you just learn how to program shaders. And the logic behind programming shaders is slightly different from learning to program graphics. Before, you need to understand the pipeline and what you can do with it, and the way you code it, it's also not the traditional way that you would do a 3D engine, although there is some overlap, especially in terms of the mathematics that you need, like the camera position, the world position, getting normals, applying stuff, the logic behind the rendering. It sort of overlaps, but the way you do things with triangles and with shaders is slightly different. So yeah, you need to learn that at least. Music-wise, I think it's pretty much similar in terms of tools that you have now and you had before. Now there is more specialization in doing music for small-sized intros. Back then there was some of that, but not as hardcore as there is now with these new soft synths that are specifically made for small-sized intros. And the graphics, it's completely different than it was before. Before it was just learning how to do pixel art, pretty much. And then you started to get used to do 3D modeling, 3D animation, texturing, and now you can take that to the whole very advanced level, and you have to be able to coordinate that with your programmer so that you can use the same materials that they can and everything exports properly, maybe even use your own custom tool. So the graphician became a lot more of a tool user and doing the composition of the whole demo, putting everything together and everything in sync than actually than it used to be before. Before it used to be a lot more the coder that did that work. So in that sense, graphician's work is harder to get into the demo scene, but I mean, if you are talented and if you are interested in doing graphics for demos, talk with a random programmer guy that you know that is a demo scener, and he'll likely be interested in having more graphicians helping out doing the demos. Of course, there is Unity. You can always just use the Unity editor. There have been a few demos using that, and you can do great demos with just Unity alone. You get some crap out of it from Pouet, from people saying that it's not a real demo because you're not hardcore, but you know, those people are a bit zealots on that they think you should do everything from scratch, but they probably haven't done the compiler that they're using, and they probably haven't done the operating system that they're using. So that's a bit of a gray line there, which they are ignoring. But yeah, you know, zealots on the internet, that's what they do. They like to complain. As they say, make a demo about it. If you can make a demo, that's what you should do, regardless of the technology that you have. Yeah. So we're getting off track from the topic. So is demo scene harder to get into for newbies nowadays? I don't think it is. I think it's a matter of they are not that interested in the demo scene as they were before, because they have so many other alternatives to express themselves and to find a group of cool people, like a community. We still have newcomers. They still show up. But yeah, it still floats very much around the game development community, and game development community has been booming a lot on the last years. It's the most grossing enterprise that it even outdoes the movie industry. So it's normal that there are a lot of talent in it. There are also a lot of people who get burned out from doing games a lot, and that translates into the demo scene as well. Because if people get burned out doing their day job, they won't really have state of mind to work on the hobby. Some people manage to do that. Other people get burned out and they just need time out from everything. So that's something to worry about. But you know, that's on a personal level, not really an impediment for a newbie to get into the demo scene. Although I have asked a few people sometimes that were interested in doing demos and they just didn't have time to do demos because they were so busy with work. So that's a thing as well. Back then, everyone was a teenager when they learned about the demo scene, and when you're a teenager you have more free time. You can work around exams and schoolwork stuff. You have a lot more leeway. If you have a regular job, you don't have that free time. You can't just take a week off and do something else, or you don't have the state of mind when you get home after working 8 hours to work on something else. Then you get married, then you get kids, and you know, life gets complicated and all those things take away free time, and demoscene is a hobby, so you do it whenever you have some free time. So yeah, that's it for this video. Let me know what you guys think on the comments below, and see you next time. Bye bye everyone, take care.